skin, during its lifetime, it's not kosher for its shayfa. Val Rishim Lazar, Halik Rabbi Meir, Big Luda. That's saying that Rishim Lazar hoped that initially Rabbi Meir was arguing, but then he ultimately, Chazarbo, changed his mind and agreed with the Rishim Lazar says, well, that's good Meir, it's not a good Chapsula. Rabbi Meir and the Chacham never argued about Gluda. They always held it was possible. And Rabbi Oshia, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, the perfume seller, already testified that Rabbi Akiva, in front of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfon, the name of Rabbi Tarfon, that ala gluda, that an animal that was skinned in its lifetime, shipsula, that it's treifa, both sella, but if it wasn't fully skinned, there was an amount of skin left, the size of the sella coin, then it is sheira, because apparently, if there is a little bit of skin left, the skin can regrow, and again, the animal can be covered with skin. Says the Gemara, Amar of Nachman Yitzchak, Rav Nachman Yitzchak said, no, it's not an argument. What did Reb Shimon mean? Lo nechlaku. What does it mean when he says they didn't argue? It doesn't mean they never argued. Lo Amar Rabbi Meir b'machlokasa. They didn't stay arguing. Rabbi Meir didn't stay arguing, because eventually when he heard the arguments of the Chachamim that if the animal is skinned, it's a treifa, he agreed. He said, yes, it is in fact a treifa.
So this animal, how did he get the skin off? Like
somebody came with a knife and took it off.
So while he was alive?
Yes.
Yo.
Cruel.
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. Amar ma, we just learned in the Brisa. Even if the animal is skinned in its lifetime, if the amount of skin left on the animal is the size of a sela coin, then the animal is kosher. Hey, now where is that sela coin worth of skin? On the face of the entire spine. So what did that mean? Yibalu, that a question in the yeshiva. Does that mean to arich v'katan, that it's a long strip that's thin? When you combine all these little strips, all these little pieces along that strip, havi kasela, it would be the size of the sela coin. Or maybe berochav sela, it has to be wide like a sela coin, and the length is al pnei hashedra kula, and the length is along the entirety of the spine. Tashma coming here proved to Parashat Naharai Mishmei Shmuel. Reb Naharai explained in the name of Shmuel, berochav kasela, it has to be as wide as a sela. Along the entirety of the spine. That's the view of Rabbi Naharai in the name of Shmuel. Rabbi Rechana said, you don't need to have it on the spine. Actually, what it needs to be is the skin has to be, you have to have skin the size of a sela on Rashi Prakim, on the joints. In other words, where you have joints, so joints are the vertebrae of the spine, the thigh, the knee. You need to have skin there. Where you need to have the skin is not along the spine, nor is it opposite all the joints, but it's b'makom tiburo, but it's near the button, belly button, near the stomach, opposite the stomach. So Rabbi Yishmael asked the following question. If you say that the skin that has to be left is the skin along the spine, what would be if the opposite case? There's an animal fully skinned, fully with its skin, and then Nital Makam Shedra Nakam Shedra V'Kulo Kayim. And the skin along the spine was taken off, but the rest of the skin was left. So do we say, since when all the other skin was taken out and this skin left, the skin of the spine left, it's kosher, that means this skin is the life. So when you just take this skin out, it's already a treifa. Maybe no. If you just took this skin out and you have all the other skin left, it's not a treifa. So the same question would be according to Rabbi Yanai. Nita makum tiburo v'kulo kayim. What would be if you just took out the skin opposite the belly button, but all the other skin was left? Is that a treifa? What about nitlu rashi prakim, the skin that's near the joints? According to Rabbi Barchana was taken out, but v'kulo kayim, all the other skin was left. Does that make it a treifa? Answer the Gemara. All these questions take who we don't know. We're going to wait for Eliyahu Hanavi to resolve these questions.
But Rabbi, they never cared about like infections and.
They do care about infections. That's all these discussions.
Yeah.
That's what's underlying all these questions. Absolutely.
I mean, once they take the skin off,
Yeah.
either belly button or right or left, this is all future infection.
Very good. That's part of the discussion, I think. I think that's very much part of the discussion.
Then it makes everything treifa.
Okay, you're assuming one side. The infection couldn't be healed. Maybe the infection can be healed, but I think that's the discussion.
It's a deep thing there. Definitely the infection.
I think that's the discussion. Okay. Now another opinion. Rav said, Kala or kulo matzo begluda. Anywhere along the skin can save an animal that was skinned. In other words, I disagree with the three opinions before. The three opinions before was that the skin that's left the size of a sellas along the spine, or it's near the joints, at every joint, or it's at the belly button. I say anywhere. It could be on the back. It could be on the side. If there's some skin left, it's going to save it. Because that skin is going to grow back. You know what skin wouldn't grow back? Chutz me'or beis haprasos. The skin of what it steps on. It's the skin of the bottom of the legs, the bottom of the feet. Because that's already not skin. That's already considered meat. That's not skin, so that wouldn't spread.
The shoes?
The bottom of the leg. The bottom of the foot. The bottom of the foot.
By the hoof.
Exactly, by the hoof. Actually, I see here that they say that later on Kuf Kaf Beis, Rashi says that it's the skin underneath the
knee.
Underneath the knee, exactly. That's already not considered skin. That's already considered meat. Rabbi Yochanan said no. According to the view of Rav, which apparently he agrees with, afilu or beis haprasos nami matzu, that if the entire skin is taken off except for that skin underneath the knee, that would render the animal still kosher, not a treifa. It would also spread and heal the animal and regrow. Rav Asi asked the question of Rabbi Yochanan. Or beis haprasos, the skin of that area, ma'oshi yatzu begluta. The skin underneath the knee, if that's what's left and everything else was skinned, can it save the animal? Amar leis, Rabbi Yochanan said to him, matzu, it can save the animal. It wouldn't make it, it's not a treif anymore. Amar leis, Rabbi Asi asked Rabbi Yochanan, according to your opinion, 1 second. But you taught us in a Mishnah, Elu sheroseyen kibsaran, these are parts of skin that are like meat. And they would have the tumah that the meat has. And one of those is or beis haprasos, the skin underneath the knee. So you see that the skin underneath the knee is meat. So if it's meat in regards to tumah, it should be meat in regards to not being able to save an animal which was otherwise skinned. Amar leis, Rabbi Yochanan said back to Rabbi Asi, al tekniteni, don't upset me with these types of questions. That Mishnah is only a minority opinion. It's not the view of the halacha. The time is we went in a brisa. If a guy shechts an animal, which has a carbon ola, let's see, he has a carbon ola, he shechts it with wrong thoughts. With the intention he's going to burn on the mizbeach a kazayas of the skin that's underneath the tail in the wrong place. So, as the regular law of chutzlan komo, pasul, it's now a disqualified carbon. If you eat from it, ain't bo kares, you want to get kares. However, if he has an intention to offer the skin that's underneath the tail in the wrong time, chutzlas mano, that contaminates the animal, becomes pigul. V'chayav an olav kares, and someone who eats from it would get kares, because apparently the skin underneath the tail is edible. It's like a food. It's like meat. Eliezer ben Yehuda ish Iblim. Eliezer ben Yehuda, the man of Iblim. Amar Mishum Rabbi Yaakov. And then Rabbi Yaakov. V'chein Rabbi ben Yehuda ish Kfar Iko. Amar Mishum Rabbi Shimon. And Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda said, the man of Kfar Iko, said in him Rabbi Shimon, Echad or beis haprasos, whether it's the skin underneath the knee, and Echad or harosh or egel arach, or the skin of the head of a very young calf, the echad or shel tachas ha'alya, or the skin underneath the tail, V'kol shemanu chacham, and all those things that the sages are going to list in the Mishnah Kufchav Beis, gabe tuma, that have the tuma of nevela, elu she'orosein kibsar, that these have the status of meat, lavi arbe saboshes, to include the skin of the womb. All of those, if when doing the karban he's thinking to offer it these skins, chutzlam komo, out of place, possibly in Mokaris, chutzlas mano, out of time, pigol v'chayav and of kares. So it comes out that this question of or beis haprasos is a machlokas between the Tana Kama with Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Shimon. According to the Tana Kama, which sounds like that's the majority, this type of a skin is not considered basa. It wouldn't create pigol. So the Mishnah that says or beis haprasos is basar and it has tumas nevela, that's only a minority view. That's the slatter view, the view of Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Shimon. It's not the majority view. So that's why, since it's not the majority view, that's why he said, I didn't agree with it. And I say that our beis haprasos is skin, it's not meat. And therefore it too can heal the rest of the skin and save an animal from being a treifa.
But that's not meat, that's fat. Schmutz.
Good. That's exactly the question. Is it fat or is it skin?
But the fat doesn't grow back.
Good. That would be if you say it's fat. Maybe it's really skin. Looks like skin. It's a spot of skin. So maybe it has the status of skin. That's an argument. All right, great. Now we move on from animals to chickens to birds. Ve'elu treifos ba'of. And here we have treifos in a bird. Nekubas haveshet. If there is a little hole of any size in the esophagus. Upsukas hagargeres. And if the majority of the trachea was severed. Hikata chulda. If the chulda I think is the weasel. If the weasel bites the bird, we have a lot of discussions about this bite because the teeth of the weasel are crooked. So it's not a straight hole. So if the weasel bites al roshan, the head of the bird, makom she'osa treifa, in a place which would make it into a treifa, it becomes a treifa. In other words, if the weasel bit through the head, and we think it got through the membrane of the brain, it made a hole in the membrane of the brain, it got through the skull and made a hole in the membrane of the brain, it's a treifa. Nikava korkavan. Korkavan is the stomach of the bird. If the holy korkavan got a hole in it, it is a treifa. Nikva dakin, if there's a hole in the intestines, it would be a treifa. Nafla l'ur, let's say a bird falls into a fire, and her intestines shrivel up from the heat. Now, if it's organs that are normally red, let's say like the heart, the liver, the korkavan, and they become yerukim and they become green, that's also a treifa psul. Now it's a treifa. Aduin, but if the heart, the liver, or the stomach stay red, sherim, the bird is kosher. Terasa, let's say a person stomps on the bird. Or trafa, a person took it and threw it bakosel against the wall. Oh, sharitzitsta behema, or an animal crushed it. And the bird is still, flailing about, can't stand. So now we're worried, maybe there was an internal concussion. And therefore, shasam eis leis, if it waits for another 24 hours, v'shachta, it's still alive, then you slaughter it, it would be kshera. All right, so one of the things we mentioned, the third thing mentioned, was a weasel that bites into the head of the bird. So now a discussion about this. Rav Shmuel and Levi D'Amri, they said, what you do is that the person puts his hand inside the mouth of the bird that was bit by the weasel, ubodek, and you check. How do you check? By pushing the brain stuff up. If the bite had gotten through the skin and the skull and the membrane, so brain stuff is now going to pop out of the bird's head. Then you know that there's a hole through and through, and then it is a treifa. But if no brain stuff's going to push out, then you know that, okay, maybe it made a hole in the skin, maybe it even made a hole in the skull, but it didn't get to the membrane. The membrane is still holding the brain in. So then it's not a treifa, it's not nikva krum shel moach, it's not a treifa. Therefore, if it's, popping out and going up, treifa, it's a treifa. And if not, it is kshera, it is kosher. So asks the Gemara, in that membrane over the brain, there are actually two membranes. And we had a machlokas in the Gemara earlier, whether it's a treifa if only one membrane is severed, or to be a treifa, both membranes have to be severed. So the Gemara now says, this all works that in order to have a treifa of the membrane of the brain, both membranes have to be severed. The top one and the bottom one. But according to the opinion earlier on Daf Mem Hey, that if the top membrane is severed and the lower membrane is not severed, it's also a treifa. So even though you couldn't get brain out of the head of this bird, but nechosh, we should still be worried. Maybe the weasel cut through with its teeth the skull and the top membrane. It's only the lower membrane that's holding in the brain, but the top membrane is already cut, and therefore it should be a treifa. So the Gemara says no. Isa, the inkavila, if the top membrane would have been punctured, then all you have is the lower membrane, and the skull is punctured. Tata, this lower membrane, agav ruchve mifka paka, because it's so soft, it would break open when you're pushing with your finger, all the brain stuff. This is so soft, it would break open. So therefore, brain would come out. Brain didn't come out. You see, it is the top membrane has not been severed.
So the birds that they put them to fight each other, most likely they're treifa.
That could be, yeah.
Because they really beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah, that could be. That's right. All right, so this is the view of Rav, Shmuel, and Levi. So all three great Amoraic leaders, Rav, Shmuel, and Levi, the first generation of the Amoraim, they all say the way to check the bird that was bit by the weasel is to put your finger into the mouth and push the brain stuff up. Amar Ziri said, nope, ein bedika l'chulda. That's not a check. It's not a good check when we're worried about the weasel. Why? Mipnei sheshinea dakos. Because the teeth of the weasel are very thin, and therefore, even if there would be a hole through the skull, through the membrane, maybe brain's not getting out because it's a very small hole. So I said, really? Who cares that it's a very small hole and it's a very thin teeth? So what? It's going to make a hole and some brain's going to get out. The point is that the teeth, as I mentioned before, are thin and bent. So since the teeth are thin and bent, so it makes a hole along a slant. So if this guy's pushing the brain, it could be that there is a hole going all the way through, but it's not going to get out because the hole is a slanted hole. And so he may be pushing where there is no hole. It's just going to go up against the brain, up against the skull, because there it wasn't cut through. So that was the view of Ziri. Kisalik l'Naharta. When Ziri went away to Naharta, Shalach Lahu, the people from his former town, city Bavel, sent to him. He sent to them. He sent back to the people of his former town. He said, what I said to you, that you can't check the bird bitten by the weasel because the weasel teeth are slanted. That was a mistake. Ram, however, Kach Amru Nishmei Reb Shimon Lakish. What Reb Shimon Lakish said was Bod Kim L'Chuldu Biyad. You check the weasel bite with your hand, like we said before, by pushing the brain up. Avaloba Masmer, but you can't use a nail. You can't use a nail to roll the nail, slide the nail across the head to see if the nail gets stuck by some hole, because the nail itself can make the hole. Rabbi Yochanan says you can even use the nail, and that's also a proper check. What's the argument? The plukta With pluk to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia. This is the same argument between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia. Chad badik biyada, one used to check with his hand by pushing a brain. Chad badik b'machta, and one used to check with the nail. Rabbi Yochanan holds both the proper checks, and Rish Lakish holds don't check with a nail, only check with your hand. But everybody agrees you could check with your hand, according to Zeiri's final point of view. So the one who would check with his hand, he would say to the one who would check with a needle, how long are you causing Jewish money to go to waste? Because when you check with the needle and you slide the needle along the skull, the needle itself might make the hole. So you may take something which was kosher and you're ruining it. You're making the hole. You're making a treifa. The one who's checking with a needle would say, the one who's checking with a hand, till how long are you going to be feeding the Jews nevelos? Because it's not such a good check, this check. So you think it's kosher, it's really not kosher. Nevelos, it's not nevela. Remember, the difference between nevela and treifas. Treifas had a shchita, but there's a problem in it. Nevela didn't have a shchita. This had a shchita. Yeah, that's what he means. Ella treifos. How long are you feeding people treifos? Because shemanik of krum shel moach. Maybe when you check with your hand, there really was a hole in the membrane around the brain. But as we've said before, that since the teeth are bent, the hole is slanted. Since the hole is slanted, when you push the brain up, you didn't go out. Okay, that's not a proof that there was no hole. There was a hole. But nevertheless, the brain didn't go out. Says the Gemara, this time, let's prove the identity. Rabbi Yehuda, the Balik Biyad. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who checks with the hand pushing the brain. The tiny went in a breast. Rabbi Shimon Elazar Omer. Rabbi Shimon Elazar says, Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yehuda, name Rabbi Yehuda. Both can l'chulda biyad. We check the bite of a weasel by the hand. Avalov masmer. We don't use a nail. Nishbara etzem, and if the bone of the skull was broken, aval pi shalom nikav krum shel moach. Even though the membrane of the brain wasn't cut, it is still a treifa.
Rabbi, I never seen any shochet checking the head of the chicken. They always check the legs, to see if the legs are broken.
Okay.
But I've never seen them touching the head.
We don't have weasels around. So at this time, okay, that's a good proof. That's the view of Rabbi Yehuda, that both can l'chol biyad that used to check by hand. So 1 second. Hagufa kasha, here we have a problem. Amar both can l'chol biyad av'lo b'masmer. So you say we check the chicken from the weasel bite by hand and not with a nail. So you see that there is a check. Right? There is a check to see if the membrane is whole. If the membrane is whole, it's kosher. If the membrane has a hole in it, it's not kosher. But then it says, if the bone of the skull is broken, even without the membrane being severed, it's no good. So 1 second, then what's the point of a check? What's the point of a check? The bone is broken. It's already a treifa because the skull bone is broken. So Gemara says it depends on what type of a bird. Seifa san lo'of shalmai. The seifas are talking about birds of the water. It's like a duck. Hovein lakrum, they don't have a membrane around the brain. And the Reisha, Rabbi Yehuda, was talking about a bird of the land, like a chicken, which has a membrane around the brain. So 1 second. Ein lo krum sal gadaitach. What do you mean it doesn't have a membrane around the brain? It does. Elohol krum orach. No. The birds of the water have a very thin, soft membrane. So therefore, the birds of the water, if the skull is broken, the membrane's breaking with the skull. And therefore, you don't even need to do any checks. When we talk about checks, that's about the birds of the land. They have a hard skull. They have a hard membrane. Therefore, the skull could be broken without the membrane. We have to check about the membrane. Rav Nachman said to Rav Anan, Mar Amar, you're telling me, Shmuel Badik Biyada, Shmuel used to check by hand, umachshir, and if the brain didn't come out, he would make it kosher. And Huna Chavrin Amar, Huna, our friend, also said, Rav Badik Biyadu Machshir, Rav used to check by hand and say that it was kosher, but I have a problem. What Levi taught us in a brisa. All the various treifa wounds that the sages have listed, the 18 treifos in animals, connect them both if they happen to birds. It's the same thing. It also is a treifa. Yasser Lan Oaf, and with bird there's even more. If the skull is broken, even without the membrane around the brain, it's a treifa. So therefore, how are Rav and Shmuel making it kosher by checking by hand and seeing that the brain's not spilling out? Okay, so the brain doesn't spill out, but the skull's broken. It should be a treifa because the skull is broken. Amar le, Shavanan answered, Ahu ba'ov shel mayim, ho vein lo krum. That law of a skull being broken, as we've said, is only if the birds of the water, they don't have a membrane. Ein lo krum sagadaitach. What do you mean they don't have a membrane? They do have a membrane. Elohol krum orach. Since those membranes are very soft, there if the skull is broken, it's already a treifa. But in normal animals, normal birds not. So now a story. There was a story with the chicken that was bitten in its head with the weasel. It was in the house of Reb Chana. Reb Chana sent it in front of Reb Masna. And what did Reb Masna find? He said, fine, the skull's broken, the bone is broken, but the membrane is not. He said it's kosher. Amar le, so Reb Chana said to Reb Masna, I was on Levi, but Levi said, all the treifos that exist in animals exist in birds. Yes, or Oaf, and Oaf has further. Nishbra etzem, if the bone of the skull is broken, even though the membrane of the brain wasn't broken, it's also a treifa. Amar le, so he gave him the same answer we've said already twice. Awesome, there was both shalmayim, that's only about the birds of the water. Ho vein lo krum, because it doesn't have a membrane. Ein lo krum sagadaitach, you think the bird of the water doesn't have a membrane? We see it does. But no, since the membrane is very soft, there breaking the skull already means the breaking of the membrane. But generally, in the birds of the ground, you have to see that the membrane is broken to be treif.
So the skull of the ducks and geese is
treifa.
Is more fragile than
the membrane within that skull. That's right. The membrane right underneath that skull is more fragile. Correct.
Yeah, but like let's say the geese, I think they're smart. They move from one location, they come back in the spring.
Maybe because they have to be smart. Because they have a very soft membrane.
Soft membrane to the key.
So another explanation. Another way to check. Rav Shizbi badik b'shimsha. Rav Shizbi used to check in the sun. Rav Yemer badik b'mayr. Rav Yemer used to check in water. In other words, he would take all the brain out of the membrane and then fill it with water. And if the water leaked out, then you'd know there's a hole in the membrane. If the water didn't leak out, it would be kosher. Rav Acha bar Yaakov badik. Rav Acha bar Yaakov used to check. Now turning to Nun Vav on days. Begila dechitza. With the hay of wheat. So just, like we said with the nail, he would slide the piece of hay along the membrane to see if there's a hole, it gets stuck anywhere. Rav Shizvi said, Hani Avzi Didzan, these geese of ours, Kov Shalmayim Dami, they are like the birds of the water. And therefore, if the skull's broken, the membrane automatically is considered broken. And they are a treifa. Okay, so the Mishnah talked about a weasel biting into the skull of a bird. Then the Mishnah talked about a bird that falls into fire and the red organs turning green, or the red organs staying red. Wow. So the Mishnah said, Naflu, or if it fell into a fire, if the red organs have shriveled and turned green, then it is possible. Rabbi Yosef ben Yoshua. Rabbi Yochanan said the name of Rabbi Yosef ben Yoshua. A bird that fell into fire. Shir Yerikasan. How much green? Kishir Nikivasan. It's like the size of the holes. Manikuvasan b'mashu. Just like a hole of a little bit makes it treif. Af Yerukasan b'mashu. So too the greenness is a mashu. If even a mashu, just a little bit of the heart, or of the korkavan, or of the liver turned green, it is a treifa. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yosef, the son of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, asked his father, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, what happens if a bird falls into a fire and horika covered kineged me'ayin, and the liver turned green, the part of the liver that's next to the intestines. That's the thin part of the liver. So, mahu, what is the halacha? The thin part of the liver. What's the halacha? Amalei, so you said treifa, it's a treifa. So the Gemara says, I understand. One second, why shouldn't it be any different than taking out a liver? We said if you took out a liver and a kazayas is left, it's kosher. So this part, the green's just taken out. So the Gemara says, no. Amarav Rabba said, since the liver near the intestines has turned green, that we can be sure that it fell into a fire. That's what made it green. So if it fell into a fire, the intestines themselves have shriveled up. And therefore, treifa, that's why it is a treifa, because they've been burned. Rabbi Yeshua Levi had this chicken that fell into a fire. He sent it to Belazar Kfar, the great leader of the generation. Belazar Kfar said to Rabbi Yeshua Levi, the intestines are green. The akshara, and he made it kosher. Second one, not Yerukim Sula. We said green organs are puzzle. When do we say green organs are puzzle? If the heart is green, if the stomach is green, if the liver is green, because those are normally red, and therefore if they turn green by the fire, they're puzzle. But intestines are normally green. So if intestines are normally green, it doesn't become puzzle. Tana Melch goes something in a rice like this. Which intestinal organs did they say greenness makes it no good? Only the stomach, only the heart, and the liver. Since they are normally red, if they turn green from the fire, they're no good. But things that normally can be green, if they're green, even though they went into a fire, it's still kosher. Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef, Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef had this chicken that fell into fire. He sent it to Rabbi Zev. Amar Les, Rabbi Zev said to Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef, Adumim Havu. The intestines now are red. So since the small intestines are red, treifa, it's a treifa. One second, well, that's not Adumim Ksherim, but our Mishnah says that things that are red are kosher. Amar Les, he explained, Adumim Shehoriku. The Mishnah is saying two things. If things are normally red, like liver, heart, and korkavan, and they turn green, that's a treifa. But the same goes the other way. V'yerukin she'edimu, but things that are normally green, like the small intestines, if they turn red by the fire, that's also treifa. When do we say that things that are red are kosher? The things that are normally red, like the heart, the stomach, and the liver. Amar Shmuel Bar Chia, Amar Reb Mani. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Chia said the name of Rabbi Mani. Adumim sheyuriku. Let's say you have small intestines that are normally red. They turn green. Ushlakan. But then you boiled them in hot water. And they turned red again. So that's ksherin. That means that they're kosher. My time of kuchayablu. What happened was that really they didn't turn green. Really, what happened was the smoke got into them. And since the smoke got into them, they looked green. Therefore, once you put it into boiling water, went back to its normal color, you see it's really not a treifa. Rav Nachman Yitzchak said, Afanan, no, we also could say, go the other way. Adumim shelo riku. Let's say you have things that are normally red, like the small intestines. I'm sorry, the heart, the liver, normally red. They didn't turn green. Ushlakan, and then you boil them. Voriku, now they turn green. Treifa, that's a sign that it's a treifa. Now their, disgrace has been revealed. In other words, really, They had turned green because of the fire, but they just looked red. So that's why by boiling them again, they turn green. You know that they're really a treifa. Amar Rashi said, Hilkach, therefore, a person shouldn't eat a bird that fell into a fire, ela b'shlaka, unless he first boils the meat and he sees what color it changes. But it's not true. That's not a correct instruction. We don't have to assume that there's a problem. If we see things to us, it looks fine. We don't have to go checking, maybe it's going to turn green, maybe it's not going to turn green. We don't have to assume that there's a problem. Look at the Mishnah, Drasa, if a man tramples on a bird, or Taraf Bakotel, he throws it against the wall, or an animal smashed it, as long as it's walking around, still, toddling here and there for 24 hours, it's still kosher. Whether a bird was smashed by a person, or a bird that a person threw against the wall, or a bird that an animal smashed. If it waited 24 hours, you can shecht it, but you have to check it after the shechting to make sure that none of the internal organs have been damaged by all of the shaking around that it